Waiver gems and trade block plays. Win today and plan for days. Waiver gems and trade block plays. Win today and plan for days. Waiver gems and trade block plays. Win today and plan for days.
Win your league, stack that bread, or start a boom and lose instead. Sunday Surefire, let's go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sunday Surefire podcast. I'm your host, the Commish. Joining me tonight is the whole crew. Get the boys in the house here with me. I got my guy Aaron Downtown Brown.
Hey.
And my man Ethan Weaver.
Commish, how we doing?
Doing well, boys. Doing pretty well here on this Wednesday evening. A lot going on in the league as always. Tonight we're going to be talking about we're taking a break from the rookies. We've been talking a lot of rookie coverage lately, and rightfully so with the NFL draft coming and going. I feel like, Ethan, at least for you and me, man, every single time we've been on these episodes, we're just clicking the draft button over and over again in these mocks, which, again, really fun to do that, but it's kind of nice to take a break from that and get back to the other veterans that have been in the NFL for years and years and kind of talking about how their values have changed. You know, the offseason is a lot goes into it, and from the last time we were setting lineups as dynasty managers back in what was hopefully week 17 for you in your championship games, the landscape of the league is going to look a lot different when we go to set our lineups in week 1 of the 2025 season. And so in this episode, what we're going to be running down is just kind of guys who have kind of come out of the offseason as winners as far as the veterans in the NFL go. And we can take into account anything that's happened so far in the offseason, whether it be free agency moves that happened around this player. Maybe they changed teams themselves. Maybe they had some competition leave their depth chart, so now they're getting a step up for that reason. And certainly the rookie draft plays a role, or any trades that went on throughout the league too. So always a lot of moving parts going on when it comes to the NFL offseason every single year. And that's kind of the fun as dynasty managers that we have, is kind of getting to break down all those different things that happen and kind of just reevaluating things constantly. A dynasty is a 24/7 game, and that's why it's the premier version of fantasy football. And we're happy to do it. So we're going to talk about that for sure, but we did just want to, off the top here, a little bit of a sour note here, unfortunately. We did have the passing of Colts owner Jim Irsay just come down the pike. I heard about it about an hour ago. Really sad development there. Jim Irsay is a very active owner in the NFL. So a lot of people know who he is. I know, speaking from personal experience as a Patriots fan, we had Patriots-Colts rivalries. Ethan and I watched that growing up. So we were very well aware of who Jim Irsay was for the last 20 or 30 years even. So really sad. Our hearts go out to Colts Nation and certainly the Irsay family as well. So tough time there for them. So we wanted to pass our condolences along there. Ethan, anything to pick up from there?
No, you said it pretty much perfectly. I mean, he's been the owner since, believe, 1995. And as you said, we've been locked into those early Colts Patriots rivalry. It was honestly the best rivalry I've had to witness watching my team, the New England Patriots, play. And Jim Irsay's, I mean, it's when you think of the Indianapolis Colts, it's hard not to think of Jim Irsay. So the league is definitely going to be a little different without him being the owner of the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, for sure. Just it's a really sad development there. Aaron, anything you want to add on to that before we get into the meat of the conversation here?
No, you guys touched on it, pretty well. I think it just everybody thinks of different memories. You guys with the AFC East, and the Patriots years and those rivalries. I think the NFL draft also just comes to mind. I know they panned to him quite a bit, where Indianapolis also hosted the draft combine quite a bit too. So yeah, heart goes out to his family and all the supporters of him as well.
Absolutely, tough situation all around, but yeah, we'll get going here on our content for tonight. Again, we're talking 2025 NFL offseason winners. We're highlighting the veterans, NFL veterans in this episode. So we're talking 9 players that came out of the offseason as winners from a dynasty perspective, Aaron. So we'll start with you, brother. What do you got for us for an offseason winner?
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna kick it off here. I'll just kind of give you guys a little heads up. I kind of wanted to put my little twist on to it as I normally do.
Not you, Aaron.
Yeah, I wanted to focus on guys that maybe are, candidates to look on the bright side. They're definitely offseason winners, but they also might be guys that have burned you in the past, right? Or maybe they didn't live up to expectations in years prior as well. So all three of my guys tonight might have burned you in the past if you've been a fantasy owner of them. But so I'm trying to, be here tonight to say, hey, I think they might have a little bit better 2025 season. So with that, without further ado, I'm going to start off here with my boy Caleb Williams. I think he had a great off season. And as I mentioned, being most of the first picks of all of our rookie drafts last year, a lot of high expectations. Didn't have quite the season we were looking for in 2024. At least he didn't get off to quite the start as many thought as he would, right? But if you look at the off season, we know that the Bears locked up David Moore. That he's going to have another off season with David Moore to keep growing with. Roma Odunze, great, bright future, one of the best wide receivers in last year's draft. As we know, rookie wide receivers, year two, that's usually when, they take a big step. So he's going to have Odunze. He's got David Moore. He gets those two guys back. Who else did they draft this year? They got Wilson Loveland for support this year, and Luther Burden as well, right? So they've surrounded Caleb Williams with nothing but weapons this offseason, and they stole my boy Joe Tooney to improve that line. So Bears offensive line, he's going to get more time. The Bears already gave Williams a decent amount of time to throw in the 2024 season, so it's just going to get better, and he has more weapons too. So really the icing on the cake with, yes, they added weapons, but they also get Ben Johnson. So he's going to run a Ben Johnson offense as well. So I think it's nothing but, looking up for Caleb Williams in 2025.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can't really ask for a better offseason for Caleb Williams managers. As you touched upon, they revamped their offensive line. As you said, they brought in Joe Tooney. They also traded for Jonah Jackson. They signed center Drew Dowman, gave him a pretty decent contract. And they also touched upon the offensive line in the draft. Round 2, they drafted Ozzie Trapilo, offensive tackle, Boston College. They took another guard in round 6. And obviously, they added Luther Burden and Colson Loveland, as you said. So just from top to bottom, I mean, this is the year Caleb Williams needs to take that step. He has Ben Johnson as well. You can add that into the mix. Great offensive mind. I mean, Caleb Williams is primed for a great season. And with everything the Chicago Bears are doing for him, if he can't take that step, take that leap, and be what we thought he was going to be when he came out of college, he pretty much only has to look in the mirror and blame himself, because everybody in that organization is doing everything they can to ensure that he is successful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's already come to a point with Williams where there's no excuses now for you to not perform, or at least show us an incremental improvement from your rookie season, which was, there were a few highlights in there, but there was also a lot of lowlights too, taking all those sacks, making a lot of bad decisions. A lot of that's not his fault. Some things need to be cleaned up. So he has the pieces around him. And it's just good to see Chicago doing everything they can to finally get a 4,000-yard passer for the first time in the franchise's history, which is crazy. The Bears are like
that's ridiculous.
The oldest franchise in history, and they can't figure out how to get a 4,000-yard passer on their roster. But that's a good one, Aaron. I think that's kind of an easier one for kind of like the whole scope of the offseason. You could argue there's no bigger winner at the veteran level for this offseason than Caleb Williams. So that was a good one, Ethan. What do you got for us for a winner?
Okay, I think I'm going to go Jerry Jeudy here. And I think it's pretty simple for him. The Cleveland Browns, they didn't draft Travis Hunter at 2. They traded back and went in a different direction. So I think if Travis Hunter did go to Cleveland, that would have hurt Jerry Jeudy quite a bit, just because I think they would probably do their damage in a similar part of the field. just looking at just crowdsourced data, just data that everybody can look at. Keep Trade Cut. He's right now currently he's wide receiver 37. Before the draft, he was wide receiver 41. So definitely a slight uptick. I believe that will continue to grow as the offseason continues. I just think Jerry Jeudy is primed for another good season. I mean, last year in full point PPR leagues, he was wide receiver 13. If you discredit week 18, where we don't really care about fantasy success, he was wide receiver 11. And the only other real pass catcher right now is David Njoku. I know people like Cedric Tillman. We'll see if he can be a solid number 3. I know they did bring in Deontay Johnson, but let's see if he even makes the team. His contract is a 1 year, $1,170,000 deal with no guaranteed money. So there's no guarantee he even makes the squad. Jerry Jeudy is going to be the locked and loaded wide receiver 1 for this team. And people might be like, oh, well, hey, the quarterback situation's a mess, but it was last year too. I mean, Watson was awful. Jameis Winston, I mean, he's great for fantasy, but he got benched for Joe Flacco late in that year. It was a carousel at the QB position. And hey, for everybody that wanted Cleveland, they draft the quarterback early. Hey, they got Shedeur Sanders, who just happened to be in round 5. So, I mean, we'll see who comes out of that QB room. I mean, I know I'm on record of actually comparing Shedeur Sanders to Kenny Pickett. So hey, now they're on the same team competing. but I just think Jerry Jeudy. This is a guy I know. Kamish can attest to this. He's a guy I can't quit, and I was very, very pumped last year to see him take the leap that I've been hoping for years. I drafted him late in so many drafts, in startup drafts. I got him basically for free, so definitely an asset that is increasing in value, and a guy that I think at wide receiver 37 prices right now on KTC, it's essentially free. He's a guy that if you can get in the cheap, I think can help your fantasy football team this year.
Yeah, I like that call for sure. I like Jeudy. I think just the Browns wide receiver core for sure. I know we were joking a little bit, but Tillman even as the wide receiver too. I think coming right after the draft, two things came out where Judy's going to be the solidified alpha on the team. But yeah, I like to throw Tillman's name in there too, because nothing really changes with Tillman's role too. So I think both of those guys. But as you said, Jeudy the most, where he was the guy for a couple weeks straight with Winston throwing to him. But yeah, I think with the Browns, they had the most amount of pass attempts last year in Stefanski's offense too. So a lot of attempts, a lot of targets going out there, and I like that call with Jerry Jeudy.
It was interesting that the Browns looked at their wide receiver room with Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy and thought, you know what we're going to do with our first 5 picks in the NFL draft? We're going to draft 5 skill position players, and none of them are going to be wide receivers. They're going to take 2 running backs, 2 quarterbacks that the rest of the league doesn't like, and we're going to take a tight end that can't block anybody, and Harold Fannin Jr. So it was an interesting offseason in Cleveland. I hope between the 5 guys they have on the depth chart that they can get someone who can give them some semblance of a long-term starting appeal. I don't think at 40 years old, Joe Flacco is going to be that guy, but he's probably going to get the nod to start the season, which I think is probably best-case scenario for a guy like Jerry Jeudy or any other Cleveland pass catchers that if you have your hands on them in Dynasty. So, yeah, I think Jerry Jeudy's definitely a winner, and I have him in my rankings here that I have on Dynasty League Football rankings. I'm a contributor there for those that don't know. I have him currently WR 39, and I'm going to need to adjust that and move him up a little bit. Probably get him up there a couple spots higher, but it's good to know that I'm a little bit higher than the crowdsourced data is on him. And I'm 2 spots ahead of him in ECR on there too. So I guess I can say technically I am a little bit ahead of the pack there, but I'm mostly in line with consensus. But yeah, he'll be going up the rankings a little bit. And we'll see if you guys maybe can convince me to move some other guys up my rankings as the episode unfolds here. But again, you can check those out on dynastyleaguefootball.com if you're a member on there. Those are available 1 QB rankings.
Yeah, and just to touch on the quarterbacks, you mentioned Flacco potentially getting the nod. Right now, currently, it sounds like Kenny Pickett and Gabriel are the guys that are like the going together in tandem, 1 and 2, and then Flacco and Shador are 3 and 4 right now. Obviously, it's early, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it's real early. I kind of I saw those reports as well. I kind of equated to, we have a fossil of a man here, Joe Flacco. This guy doesn't need a million reps in training camp in May, or in mini camp in May to get ready for the season. Hell, the guy came off the couch 2 years ago and was dropping dimes.
He was.
So that's kind of, I saw the reports as well. That's kind of where I'm equating to for now. But we'll see how things unfold there for Jeudy. But for now, definitely a good call for an offseason winner at this point in the offseason. But I'm going to roll into one of mine here, and I'm going to go to the running back position and with Brian Robinson. And look, this is a guy we talked about later last offseason as a good sell candidate, because we said if you could stomach losing the production he's giving you, it's likely that with the good RB class coming up in 2025, maybe some good veterans out there too, that the Commanders are going to use all their cap space that they had and address the running back position. And they really just didn't do it. We thought maybe he'd get replaced, but as it stands right now, it's essentially the same collection of guys in that backfield. The only main guy behind him is Austin Eckler. And as we know with Robinson and Eckler, they have two very different skill sets. So they actually fit well together on an NFL team. Eckler being more the pass catcher versus Brian Robinson, the early down thumper, certainly the guy they want to use as they get closer to the goal line. And they got Jeremy McNichols back as well. They re-signed him, but they also selected Jacory Merritt in the 7th round. That was picked 245 overall. Not exactly where you go to find your starting running back. So I think he's definitely a big winner. They also addressed the offensive line, which was pretty solid last year. They were ranked 10th to close out the season per PFF. And they added a tackle in the 1st round. So you'd like to see them adding pieces up front to help the running game. That'll help Jake Daniels in the passing game as well. But I just think Robinson remains the clear leader for the early downs and the short yardage, certainly the goal line work, in an offense that finished 6th in the league in points per game scored last season. And if he stays healthy, I think he's a serious threat to score double-digit touchdowns coming off a season where he missed 3 games last year and still punched in 8. So I think he's a guy who has the TV upside, and he's probably a guy who could be had relatively cheap, especially if you haven't had your rookie draft yet. I'm thinking maybe you go to the right manager, you offer him maybe even an early 2nd round pick in this year's draft if you have one, and you're looking for running back help. That might even get a deal done though. So I could definitely have Brian Robinson as a winner in my book, guys. What are your thoughts on all that?
I agree completely. Brian Robinson, I think he's a massive winner. He's in a great offense, and he's going to be the goal line guy between the 20s thumper. He's going to get 15, 16 plus touches probably every single week. So, I mean, we want running backs in high scoring offenses. Brian Robinson is durable. He's gonna tote the rock quite a bit for them. And it was great in a draft class with as many good running back prospects as there were, that Brian Robinson avoided pretty much all of them. He did avoid all of them. Obviously the 7th round running back, it shouldn't be too much of a threat to Brian Robinson, but definitely a big winner. And you said early 2nd. If I'm a contender, think about it. What running back do you usually get in the beginning of the 2nd round of your rookie drafts? It's Cam Skattebo. And if I'm competing, I'd take Brian Robinson Jr. 10 out of 10 times over Skattebo right now. It just much better offense, and he's locked in for a massive workload. So I think it's wheels up for him, and I'd be happy to give away my early-ish 2nd round pick if I could lock in a guy like Brian Robinson for my fantasy team.
What if it was you think you're a contender, you think you're one piece away? What would you give your 26th first for Brian Robinson?
Honestly, probably not, because I would rather use that first to get somebody else. If I'm desperate and the league is if it's tough to get running back help and that's my only option, I wouldn't love it. But if I had to, but in an ideal world, I'd rather use that 26 first and maybe package some other pieces to get somebody a little more, locked in for the future. But Brian Robinson, if you're just looking at 2025, he's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, that's really more of a process question than anything else.
Agree.
I agree with you. I'm okay sending out an early 2nd now, even though some people might equate that to, well, early 2nd now should equal at least a first next year. When in reality, the longer you play Dynasty, you realize that even future firsts do have kind of a little bit more value attached to them because you just never really know how your season's going to pan out. You might think your team looks great in May. Come November, you might be a mess, and that's looking like a top 5 pick. And especially in the case of Brian Robinson Jr., I love him. I think he's a big winner for 2025. So if you're a contending team, you should go acquire him or at least kick the tires on him. But he's entering the last year of his contract. So, and they haven't, at least at this moment, don't have him extended long term. So this could go poof in a year, but I think you're going to get good value in 2025, which is why he made our list here for tonight. So that's what I got on Robinson. I think he's going to be definitely productive in this upcoming season. But Aaron, let's go back to your next one here. If you don't have anything else to add on Robinson, go for it.
Yeah, no, just real quickly, you guys. I mean, great offense. One thing, one of the largest trades of the offseason that we forget about is they got one of the best with Tunsil from the Houston Texans, another team that's surrounding, their offense, building their line too. So better line, better offense. You always want running backs on winning teams. So love that call there. But yeah, I'm going to talk another running back here. I'm going to talk about Javonte Williams. And as I mentioned early on the show, probably another guy that's burned you in the past, but he's going to get a second life in Dallas. I mean, he's one where, if you had him, you're kind of scared of the draft, right? With all these running backs in the draft, you could have sworn Dallas was going to grab a back, and they didn't, at least early capital, right? They got Jaden Blue, a lot smaller size back, so he's going to, maybe get some third down chances too, maybe a little bit of split carries if he takes on too. But Javonte is probably the week one starter. He's really coming a year and a half from that injury where, all the experts knew that injury was going to take a little bit of time to get a lot of his burst back. So he was just under 4 yards carry last year. I mean, if he can run where Dallas improves their offense, getting Dak back and Pickens, right, being able to move the ball a little bit more on a Dallas offense, I do like Javonte as kind of revitalizing his life a little bit in fantasy. So you could have got him pretty cheap in the offseason, or if you don't have him, he's another candidate that, maybe kick the tires on him as well. So that's kind of my quick 2 cents there on Javonte. Any thoughts there, boys?
Yeah, Javonte Williams is, to me, a massive winner. He still has obviously a little bit of competition in that backfield. I mean, you have Miles Sanders that's still there. I mean, what's left of him? I mean, Jaden Blue, can he be that third down back? They drafted him in the 5th round, pick 149. I mean, he can't really hold on to the football, so he's probably not going to be toting the rock too much. But I mean, Javonte Williams, in the theme, I'm going to kind of continue this theme with my next 2 players. It's not so much he's like this massive dynasty winner that's going to create value for the long haul. But for 2025, Javonte Williams now has value. So before the NFL draft, I mean, Javonte Williams was a 0, right? He was, a 0 because everybody's assumed the Cowboys were going to draft a running back relatively high. But now that he survived the draft, now there's a pretty much is a selling window, right? So it gives you the opportunity to potentially sell Javonte Williams for some kind of value where before, people wouldn't give you anything for him. So obviously, I think he's a guy that you'd rather probably just hold on. Hopefully he gets that workhorse role and maybe sell him in season if you don't really need those points. Maybe you're not a contender. But it's just it's nice when you have players on the back end of your roster that all of a sudden value comes kind of out of nowhere. So it's nice for Javonte Williams. I remember him when he was talked about as a top 5 dynasty running back when he was coming out of the University of North Carolina, and it's just crazy how fast kind of things change in the dynasty landscape.
Yeah, one nasty injury will do that for sure. I guess I didn't realize that Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys were going to be hurt so badly for so long over the Ezekiel Elliott contract. Because for the last 3 years, they have been petrified to make a significant investment, whether it be in the draft or in free agency on their running back room. And you can say it's kind of a trend in the NFL where teams are kind of going more towards committees, but like we see backs getting paid somewhat regularly now. They're just not getting paid as much as other teams in the league. Every aging running back is on a second contract, it feels like. So Yeah, they're just scared to really make a big commitment. But I think Williams can be the benefactor of that because, like you said, there's no one else there, and he's essentially stepping into the role that Rico Gathers. Not Rico Gathers. That's a throwback name. Same team, Cowboys, but
Right.
Rico Dowdle is vacating. So Williams is the new Dowdle. At least I think he's going to get that role to start the season. What he does with it now is entirely up to him. He's back on the fantasy radar, as Ethan said, for 2025, which is, as if you were still rostering Javonte Williams, like I am in a couple of places, it's about as good as you can hope for. And now, if he plays well, hopefully he helps your team. If he plays well and maybe you're in a rebuild, now it's a value window where you can get rid of him. So yeah, definitely an off-season winner, and we'll see what he does with it from here.
That brings me to my second winner. Like I said, stay a little bit on theme with the running backs who gained a decent amount of value, and that's DeAndre Swift, the running back of the Chicago Bears. I already touched upon when we talked about Caleb Williams, what they did in the trenches with Tooney, Jonah Jackson in via trade. They picked up a center in free agency and a couple of other linemen in the draft, and they did not draft any running backs until the 7th round. Kyle Monangai, running back out of Rutgers. But like I said, 7th round. So, I mean, shouldn't be too much of an issue for DeAndre Swift to gain the workhorse role there. I know Roschon Johnson's still there, Travis Homer. But, I mean, DeAndre Swift in a Ben Johnson offense should do work in the receiving game. I'm very excited for DeAndre Swift. It should be a much improved offense. Caleb Williams, we're hoping to take that step. We touched upon all the weapons that the Chicago Bears have. It should hopefully be a relatively high-scoring offense. So you want to start and running back in those offenses, especially a running back with the receiving ability of DeAndre Swift. I'm just very excited to see what Ben Johnson does with him. I mean, the Chicago Bears had a total of 8 picks, 3 picks in the 2nd round, and they elected to not draft a running back. And this running back class, said all offseason, was very deep. I mean, the Chicago Bears could have easily brought in legitimate competition for DeAndre Swift, and they haven't. And like I said with Brian Robinson, it's not to say DeAndre Swift is safe in next year's draft, but for right now, 2025, DeAndre Swift went from a guy that really nobody wanted to now. I mean, I have DeAndre Swift in a couple of leagues. People are actively sending trade offers for him. So he's a guy that increased in a ton of value. Going back to the KTC crowdsourced data there, he's RB 32 before the draft. He was RB 42, and I think if he stays healthy and he's the start running back for the Chicago Bears, I see him surpassing that RB 32 threshold relatively easily. I've always been a pretty decent Swift fan. I like this. We all love this profile coming out of Georgia. I mean, DeAndre Swift was a fantasy, a guy that everybody loved a few years ago, and obviously people have soured quite a bit on. But now he has an opportunity to be the starting running back in what should be a productive offense.
Love it. You already know I'm a Williams fan this year, so said my 2 cents on the Bears offense. So I'll let Pat or Kamish go from here. But yeah, love the Swift call.
Swift checks a lot of the boxes that should make him an offseason winner. Like, they didn't add competition in free agency or in the draft. Like, 100% right. Totally agree. The offense as a whole is getting better based on all the additions that we've touched on that situation. Totally agree. There's, I guess, 2 things that stick out to me with Swift. One of them is kind of a more macro thing with if you've had Swift for the last 5 years, you know that he's a guy that there's highlights. He does well for some weeks. And then but he just always leaves you wanting that little bit more. And Ethan's a guy who's had him for a while too. So I think you'll agree, like, yeah, he's doing well for me in stretches. And then it's like, I really need it this time. And he doesn't pan out for whatever reason. He gets banged up. He gets put in the doghouse, whatever the case may be. The second thing, and it kind of leads to the doghouse argument I was just making, is Ethan says he's looking forward to seeing what Ben Johnson does with DeAndre Swift. Ethan, what if I told you we've already seen what Ben Johnson can do with DeAndre Swift? In 2022, that was Ben Johnson's first year as the offensive coordinator in Detroit. And we actually have already seen him more or less give up on DeAndre Swift once. And it's kind of interesting, whereas we see this all the time, where coaches will go from one place to another. Maybe OC gets a head coaching job. they'll bring in guys who are familiar with their system and know what their playbook and all that, and it helps them kind of speed up their transition. We almost never see a head coach then go somewhere and end up with a guy that he kind of fell out of favor with in 2022. If you remember, it wasn't DeAndre Swift scoring all these touchdowns in Detroit. That was the year that Jamal Williams led the NFL in touchdowns. So I don't necessarily know if there's a Javonte Williams level back on the Chicago roster, but I don't know if Rashawn's that guy or not. But I think it gives me a little bit of pause because we've already seen this OC, this head coach now, lose interest in this exact player just a few years ago when they were together in Detroit. Ethan. So what would you have to say to that?
Yeah, no, I understand obviously that back in Detroit, Ben Johnson's there, but what gives me a little more confidence for 2025, that is the fact that obviously Ben Johnson comes in, he sees his running back room, and he does little to nothing to improve it. So DeAndre Swift, he was a young player back in 2021, 2022. I mean, he was drafted in April of 2020, I believe. So, I mean, he was still a young player, and he did have his flashes for Detroit. I mean, unfortunately, Swift just had trouble, I think, staying healthy too, which, I think that's what led to, I think Swift, they just kicking Swift out, bringing in a guy like Montgomery, drafting a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs. They just kind of wanted to revamp that backfield. And obviously Swift went on, had a stint in Philly and now in Chicago. But I agree that it does give you pause, but right now it's for 2025. This is what he has. So he's going to have to make it work with DeAndre Swift. And he, like I said, he had 3 opportunities in the second round to give Swift legitimate competition, and they elected not to.
I think what I'm hearing is a hot take alert that Roschon Johnson is going to have 20 touchdowns.
20 touchdowns.
I'll tell you what, though. I know we're talking dynasty and winners and all that, and I like if you said gun to my head, is Swift a winner? Yes or no? My answer would be yes for all the reasons that Ethan laid out. I just thought it was it's really an interesting situation that we don't see very often. Like I said, where we see,
for sure,
we see guys like link up with coaches that like them and do their system, but we don't really see it happen in the reverse order like we are this time. So it's definitely going to be interesting to play out.
No, it is, and I am excited to see what he can do with obviously an older DeAndre Swift and see if he can kind of get the most out of him, right? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will, and I think the move for Swift, I think there's no way that he doesn't come out of the gates as the lead back. Like there just can't. Like he has to be the guy in week 1, week 2, week 3, whatever, first half of the season at least, before anyone else even usurps him. I think the move for Swift quickly is if you have him in Dynasty and he's playing well, his value's up. I think maybe that's when you go package an asset, draft asset, future draft pick to try to upgrade at running back to get maybe a more stable guy.
Yeah, agree completely, which is why I said it's like sometimes we're talking about these guys as winners, but it's not necessarily it needs to be a winner where you just need to keep on your roster and take the points. It's DeAndre Swift's the guy that increased in value considerably. Use that, especially weeks 1 through 4 if he's playing well, use that and get a safer asset. Because I mean, DeAndre Swift, let's be honest. I mean, he doesn't have a very long leash, and even though was safe this year, he might not be safe next year.
Totally with you. Totally here. But we're going to stick with the running back theme. We always talk about how much we love hammering running backs at late in rookie drafts and all that. So I guess we love hammering running backs in this episode. We're talking 2025 offseason winners. I'm going to go to arguably, I mean, we said Caleb Williams off the top is probably the biggest overall winner. You could argue number 2 on that list is Chase Brown with the Cincinnati Bengals. Just because he finds himself now as kind of the unquestioned lead back in this offense. And I know he kind of came out of the gate slowly as a rookie. They were rolling with Zach Moss for a while, but down the stretch, the guy absolutely crushed. I mean, he was the RB5 in fantasy points per game between week 9 and 17 with 18.6 half PPR points per contest. And if you look at what's around him now, I mean, Zach Moss is still on the fold, sure, but they waited until round 6 to grab Taj Brooks at 193 overall, which isn't saying a ton. I mean, honestly, to me, he's much more of a threat to steal carries from Zach Moss as the season progresses than Zach Moss is to steal significant work from Chase Brown. So the knock on the Bengals as a team last season was just how bad their defense was outside of Trey Hendrickson. And guess what, guys? Trey Hendrickson's in a brutal contract dispute with them right now, talking about how he's not even going to play this year unless he gets a new deal that is fair, at least in his eyes. So he could be sitting out this year. He could be traded to a different team. And, the one kind of like set it and forget it guy they had on that side of the ball is gone. So that means this offense is going to have to score points in bunches if they're going to be able to keep up in 2025, which is great for fantasy and great for all the skill players there. But I think if you look at the different skill sets and all these running backs, I think Chase Brown has the best overall skill set. And if they do get behind, he's going to be the guy who's out there the majority of the time catching those check down passes, which is just even better for fantasy. So I think this guy, he's another player that has big TD upside just based on the offense that he plays in. He gives you pass catching utility as well. And I just think that it's all systems go for Chase Brown. And as long as he's healthy, he's going to be an RB1 in 2025.
Totally agree. I love me some Chase Brown. I think, as you said, we do a lot of DFS talking in shows prior to, and we talk game script. I think with those signing big contracts to T Higgins and they didn't make a lot of moves on defense. So worse the defense is, more the offense is out on the field. So yeah, great. They'll have a great offense. So it's great for Chase Brown, but when they're in those dog fights, as you said, yeah, PPR machine at that point as well. So I love Chase Brown's chances of getting a lot of fantasy points this upcoming season.
If Chase Brown stays healthy, he's a locked and loaded top 12 running back this year, RB1. Chase Brown, I mean, the Bengals could have easily drafted a Caleb Johnson, somebody with that kind of pedigree to come in and steal early down work. They didn't. It's going to be Taj Brooks. It's going to be Zach Moss. Zach Moss and Taj Brooks are pretty similar backs. They're big, kind of bowling ball type backs. I mean, grinders, right? They don't have the skill set of a Chase Brown. And so Chase Brown's going to be on the field, 2-minute offense, third down, and he's still going to get a decent amount of touches on first and second down. So Chase Brown, I mean, what a steal he was in drafts not too long ago. So that's those are the kind of picks that you end up loving.
Absolutely.
For sure. Well, I think I'm up, guys, next here, and I think I'm going to break the running back train with this one. I'm going to go to an older fantasy darling that I think it's this offseason we saw JSN owners. I think they all just wanted a moment of silence once they saw DK was in over to Pittsburgh for sure. I think a lot of owners were just waiting for that coming out party. We saw it about midway through 2024 season when JSN was just commanding targets and making big plays too, right? He wasn't just getting screens from the year prior and getting the choppy plays to him. But yeah, JSN locked in, loaded wide receiver. He did get Kupp on his back end of his career, so just we talking dynasty. If I could have a choice between Cooper Kupp being alongside JSN or DK Metcalf, I'm going to choose Kupp if I'm a JSN owner for sure. So yeah, I think JSN is going to be able to move around. He did lead the team in slot targets, so he had over 112 targets from the slot, which you guys will laugh at this. Who came in second to JSN last year from targets from the slot? You're gonna laugh.
Can we get a hint?
No hint. So take a wild guess.
Who led targets from the slot?
Ladd McConkey.
Second to JSN on the team.
On the team.
Oh,
on the
okay.
team. Who was second on the team in slot?
Was it Jake Bobo?
Close, but no.
Noah Fant.
Okay.
Noah Fant.
Noah Fant.
Oh yeah.
Our guy.
Yes, Noah Fant, our guy. So yeah, JSN had 112 targets. Noah Fant had 28. So
Jesus.
Which is hilarious. But it's this league is the short choppy throws, higher QB completion, right? So the NFL is changing, right? Running backs are emerging, but also slot wide receivers, getting your PPR points where you can, as well, because scoring isn't what it quite was in years prior as well. So I love JSN finally for his coming out party. What do you guys think here?
It's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, in terms of like him being a fantasy producer, I mean, he's a top 10 to 12 dynasty receiver everywhere you look. To me, I look at Sam Darnold versus Geno Smith as more or less the same thing. And also people really like Geno Smith if you really dive into the advanced analytics. I'll just say that if Geno Smith was so good, he wouldn't have been riding the bench for 10 years in the middle of his career. So I guess I look at it as kind of a neutral quarterback. The only thing you can maybe worry about is, can Cooper Kupp keep enough attention off of defenders in the manner in which DK Metcalf could? Because we've talked on the show in the past about how those guys pair up really well together. DK being the outside presence that defenders have to account for. To some extent, you got to leave a safety over there with DK. So is that opening up holes for JSN to work? Maybe that's a little bit of a question now. But overall, I mean, I think maybe he's more of a neutral guy, but he's still a guy I definitely want shares of on my fantasy team.
And one quick thing on Darnold is, if Darnold can throw 6 TDs to Jalen Naylor from the slot, I like JSN's chances getting touchdowns from Darnold in 25.
Yeah, with JSN, I mean, just to give a little, I guess, well, not pushback. I mean, because we all know JSN's he's a winner in general, but I would say like. I wouldn't have cared if DK was back, Lockett was back. I mean, JSN was still the number one wide receiver on this team, no matter what. He proved that last year. He had a killer year with DK and Lockett on the team. And to Pat's point, I think I like the combination of DK and JSN better than Kupp and JSN because they got at least like Kamish said, DK at least. I mean, he keeps defenders. Obviously looking his way, and he works the deep portion of the field, and he doesn't really go in to the short to intermediate portions of the field where JSN works, where Kupp, I feel like that's where he does most of his damage. And can Kupp still continue to win on the outside if he is pushed up to the outside? So it will be an interesting dynamic with Kupp and JSN. I actually don't really like the move by Seattle to bring in Kupp. I think it's almost a redundant asset to JSN, even though JSN is the better player at this point in their career. I think I would have liked them to almost like trade for a guy like Jameson Williams or something like that, like a DK almost replacement in the sense that they're going to spread the field, So it'll be interesting to see how Kupp and JSN work together.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. And you never know. Maybe they'll run the ball more this year. Maybe they get Jack Charbonnet more involved and next to Kenneth Walker too. And maybe it's less targets overall. Maybe the pie isn't as big, but overall, this offense is the passing game is going to run through JSN. So like, I wouldn't, this isn't a panic sell JSN TED talk that we're having here. So JSN's a good player. Roster him with confidence. Don't be afraid to acquire him either. So it's a good call.
Isaiah Pacheco, a guy
I've never. What team does he play for?
Man, I wonder.
Honestly, I forget. Kind of.
Ethan's talking, not downtown. Okay, yeah,
I know.
This has to be Aaron's slide.
Me into this.
Hey, I tried to get him to talk about Pacheco, but like as I said, this is another one where Pacheco is basically left for dead, and now all of a sudden he's relevant again. So I think he's a massive winner from the 2025 draft. The Chiefs offense, I mean, it should be cooking next year. They have Xavier Worthy, who's going to take another step, who looked absolutely awesome at the end of last year. You have a healthy Hollywood Brown for at least a few weeks. I mean, I've always been a Hollywood fan. I think he can do a lot in that offense. You're going to have a healthy Rashee Rice back. You're going to have, an aging Kelsey, but still somebody that can take the pressure off some of these other receiving options. And then they drafted a guy in Royals who can develop and just be another weapon for Patrick Mahomes. And the Chiefs didn't really do much in the draft. They drafted Brashard Smith in the 7th round, but Smith, if he does anything, is probably going to be more that third down, scat back, used more so as a receiver. They brought in Elijah Mitchell, another guy that can't really stay healthy. So the only guy really in Pacheco's way for the RB1 spot is Kareem Hunt. I think Pacheco is going to have the edge. I think that week 2 fibular fracture last year just completely derailed his season. He was never the same player when he came back. He just didn't have that explosion. So I think Pacheco coming in to this year is primed to be the Chiefs' RB1, and just another guy that gained a ton of value for the 2025 season and gave us a selling window.
Yeah, I guess as the residence Chiefs fan here, I mean, I'll definitely respond to Pacheco. I definitely agree. He is definitely an offseason winner. You know, I myself was kind of curious if the Chiefs would pick up a running back a little bit earlier than the 7th round. But yeah, Pacheco, you know, I think in kind of debating back and forth, you know, where I like him the most, and I definitely say redraft. I love him for sure because, you know, we look at value and whatnot. And Pacheco, a lot of people were high on Pacheco last year, and he had that devastating injury. So there are going. He definitely saw a huge drop in value in dynasty and redraft formats. He is going to most likely get drafted a little bit later, just because you got probably some people worried about that injury. But as you said, he's still going to be the starter. You know, I definitely like him for this season. With this being the last year on his contract, it could be a make or break year. If he has a huge season, then yeah, maybe he gets another extension or something like that with the Chiefs in years to come. So that's the only watch out dynasty wise is say, hey, is this his last year as a Chief or not? But he's poised to have a great year this year. But as you said, maybe Brashard Smith may be coming out of nowhere in that Jerick McKinnon role in years past and catching touchdowns. So we'll definitely kind of see. But I definitely like the call out with Pacheco here.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on Pacheco. I mean, he's very much a win now piece on your dynasty roster. If you have him, you know, he's probably going to have a high, we'll say maybe 8 to 10, 11 touchdown upside, just how good their offense is. And if they decide to just hand the ball off inside the goal line, he could be the benefactor of that. So no arguments here on my end here with Pacheco making the list. And we got one more guy to go to here. I guess we couldn't find a picture of Evan Ingram in a Broncos jersey yet, but that's fair. We know who he is. So yeah, went Ingram now over in Denver. And if we look at what the Broncos were projected to do in the draft, I mean, they were earmarked as being an ideal landing spot for a tight end in round 1. Unfortunately for them, unfortunately for Ingram, that Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren were both off the board by the time the Denver Broncos are up to select in round 1. So they kind of pivoted, went into a different direction. But Ingram is the guy they signed earlier before the draft, even just to kind of get at the time it kind of felt like, oh, we'll just get a depth body out here in case we miss the boat at tight end. Lo and behold, they missed the boat at tight end and don't really add, you know, significant competition in any other form on this roster. I mean, if you look at what's on the depth chart right now in the tight end room, it's guys like Adam Troutman and Lucas Kroll, both of which we know are just warm bodies at this point. They did grab a tight end in the 7th round. That's Caleb Lohner out of Utah. He's a converted basketball player, which I know always gets everybody excited when they hear that at the tight end position. But the kid played one season of football at Utah, had 4 catches for 53 yards. So, granted, all 4 of those did go for touchdowns, if I want to be fair. So he's kind of that, you know, supported red zone threat, blah, blah, blah. He's a 7th round pick, guys. He's a project at best and probably isn't going to pan out. So he's a hope and a prayer there on that end. Look at the rest of the overall target pie that's available in Denver. I mean, yeah, Courtland Sutton's a good receiver. We know that. But between guys like A.T. Perry and Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, guys that were on the roster last season, Sutton was the only one in the top 60 in terms of Pro Football Focus's overall graded receivers. So there's a ton of targets available in this offense behind Courtland Sutton. They add rookie Pat Bryant as well. He's probably the leader to be their number 2 receiver between all the other guys on the team. But that just screams to me they're going to use the tight end more this season. Ingram was slowed by injuries a season ago, but he posted back-to-back top 6 tight end finishes in 2022 and 2023. And he's a guy who's, other than last season, mostly stayed healthy in recent seasons of his career. Missing, it was just 2, maybe three games over the 4 seasons prior to 2024. So I think it's wheels up for Evan Ingram in 2025, and I don't know what the future beyond that's going to hold, but if I'm looking for a cheap depth piece at tight end, Ingram's the guy I'm going to go to.
I 100% agree. Not much to add on that. I think Evan Ingram's going to be the clear number 2 target for Bo Nix in a Sean Payton led offense. I think it's wheels up for him. As you said, I'd love to get him for cheap in a lot of my dynasty leagues where I'm contending. So Evan Ingram, I think it's wheels up
for sure. I mean, they're posting right when he joined them. I think he's posting the pictures of the Joker. You know, I think Peyton's wanting to use him in multiple ways. So he's kind of hinting he's going to be a secret weapon on that offense, and I definitely see it. I think it's a great fix with Bo Nix, as you know, we know he can find the right guy last year, and if he's not there, he's going to run. But it's a quick, where's Sutton? Where's Ingram? Okay, if they're not open, I'm running. But I think that's literally going to be the check down process with Nix next year. So I love that call, especially in full point PPR, or if you got a tight end premium. I think Ingram's gonna blow up next year. So definitely love that call.
You look at where he's ranked too. I'm just looking at Fantasy Pros. This is redraft ranking, so if we want to pivot there quickly, he's tight end 10 on their list, and I can just tell if he's going to sit there, he's going to be my late round target in all my drafts. If I miss the boat at tight end, if I don't get Trey McBride, Rob Bowers, Sam Laporta, I'm just going to wait and grab him in the mid rounds because I think he's a guy who has top 5 tight end upside. I mean, hell, he might even if one of those 3 guys gets hurt, he could have top 3 upside potentially in this offense. I really believe that. I think he's that good in that good of a situation. I think their offense is going to be good enough this year where if he's a guy, the red zone threat that he can be, then he could flirt with that if he gets a touchdown total. So I really like Ingram this year. I think he can.
Who do they have in front of Ingram? Fantasy Pros.
They got
like 8 and 9, like 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, so it's like Jonnu Smith is 7, Kelsey 8, and then David Njoku sneaks ahead of him there.
Okay, I mean honestly, I think Kelsey should be behind Njoku and Ingram. I mean, I think Kelsey should be probably outside the top 12.
I can't quite get there, but yeah, but we're semantics. It's the same, whatever. Tight end, usually we say tight end 8 through 15, 17 is the same guy.
Yeah,
like Kelsey at this point is just a guy who's like a vintage car where you're really proud to have him on your team. He was amazing and all that stuff at his time, but it's like you only take him out when you really need it. That's kind of what he is at this stage. He's a guy you want on a big third down conversion or something like that. He's another guy I think at this stage, all the weapons in Kansas City that you need. He's out there when you need it, but not like a heavy fantasy producer like he's been in the past. But that's just a long way of me saying I really like Evan Ingram this year, and I think he's grossly undervalued at the moment.
Oh, 100%.
But that's what we got, guys. That was a fun, just kind of quick recap of the whole offseason and kind of some of the winners on the dynasty lens, which is what we focus on in the offseason. Next week, we're going to run down the 2025 offseason losers. So it'll be maybe it's just the New England sports fan in me, but it's always fun to be a little more pessimistic and negative. So that brings out a different energy in us. But it's important to know who, who's losing value just as important as it is to know who's gaining value. So really fun show lined up for next week, and we can't wait for that. But until next time, folks, peace.